This is Craig Hain. Student call me Dr. Dell. And I want to talk to you about my life experiences at Doubting Thomas and how I was basically saved from that. As a young boy, I lived in the woods. I'll tell you this in my book, if you read my book, How and Why Public School Math is Destroying the USA. I had to tell my whole story in there. And except what I'm about to tell you now, no one in my family, my parents, my aunt, my uncle, my grandparents, my mother's side, were churchgoers. I do believe they believed essentially in the teachings of Christianity, but they were very hardworking people, busy all the time, and they didn't go to church. But my grandparents on my father's side did go to church. As a matter of fact, they were very poor, and they lived with their children. And they came and lived with us when I was about 10 years old, several months, and they went to the Nazarene Church, and this back in Greencastle, Indiana. And so I went with them to the church on Sunday. Now, that was my first church-going experience. And I'd go into Sunday school, and I had a Sunday school teacher named Theron York. And now, when I was younger, much younger, my Aunt Ines had read me stories out of the Old Testament Bible. So I knew a lot of the Old Testament stories, but they weren't related to Jesus and Christian teachings of the New Testament. So now I was taught things from the New Testament by Theron York. And I learned about the Golden Rule, which Theron explained anybody should live by this, whether you're a Christian or not. This is a rule to live by. And I've lived by that rule, tried to live by it all my life, pretty much succeeded in doing it, and it's been very, very productive. Don't judge others. That's your place to, because you really can't know what motivates other people. Now, you can judge an action, but even that's a little bit dangerous because sometimes there might have been a good reason you didn't know about. Be very careful in judging others. And the thing he taught me is probably most significant was what you believe in is probably what's going to cause things to happen in your life then that you believe in. Now, he said, it's not a matter of what you desire, it's what you believe in. And the old story about if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you had that much faith you could move a mountain. And so I learned a lot from Theron in that Sunday school. And the summer, we had a Sunday school class under Theron that lasted for, a couple of weeks. And so I went to that. Now, I would go to church to the preacher's sermons on Sundays after Sunday school, and pretty much didn't understand what he was talking about. Reverend Newby was the minister. He was a fire and brimstone teacher and minister, and I didn't really understand much of what he would say. Theron was my teacher. The last day of Sunday school that summer, all the students that were in the Sunday school class that summer, all students about around my age, met the last day, and Reverend Newby got up and gave us a talk. Now, Reverend Newby talked to us now as students, and he said, okay, now, what you need to do is you need to come down to the altar and kneel in front of us, and you need to pray and have Jesus come into your heart, and it will transform your life. Jesus will come into your heart, and you'll be saved, and you'll be transformed. He gave a really strong speech on that, and so I was the first student to go down. I was like maybe Theron York's star student, and I'd really learned all the things he taught me. Man, I'm ready. So I go down, and the other students started coming down, and pretty soon a bunch of students are down around the sort of the altar in front, and we're praying for Jesus to come into our hearts. And I'm praying, and nothing's happened. And they come by every once in a while and say, has Jesus come into your heart yet? And not yet, I'm working on it. Some of the kids next to me started crying. I don't know why. And I just went on for quite a while. I don't know how long. It seemed like a long time, probably 10 minutes, 15. And nothing was happening. And I thought, what does Reverend Newby talking about? Jesus is going to come into my heart, and I'm going to transform me, and I'm going to feel so different. Now, I hadn't done a lot of sinning, and I hadn't done a lot of living. Anyway, nothing happened. And after about 15 minutes, I thought, this is going to happen. And it started amusing me. I started laughing. But I pretended I was crying. I didn't want them to see I was laughing. And finally they came around and said, is Jesus come into your heart? I said, yeah, he's into my heart. I'm done. I got up and I left. And I don't know how to put it, but I thought it was a con job, but something wasn't right. Anyway, I left, and I didn't go back to church. My grandparents, by the way, then moved in with another family, and so I wasn't going to church with them anymore. And I didn't go back into a church, and I thought what Reverend Newby had told us was not true. I questioned. And then as I grew older, and if you study my book, How and Why Public School Master Story in the USA, you learn I went to college. I studied math and science and economics and philosophy. And science became very much a skeptic that this idea of salvation, and you've got a spirit, and there's going to be an afterlife and a heaven and hell and all that. I became very skeptical because a lot of the people I knew that I was learning from were skeptical. So I guess that's what I call a doubting Thomas. Now, as my life went on, and the more I learned about mathematics and science, the more I knew we didn't know, the more I knew we didn't understand. And then things would happen that you couldn't explain with science. Robert Monroe and his out-of-body experiences, he wrote a books on that, and well, that can't happen. And then I started learning about near-death experiences, and lots of them. That clearly was not something science could understand. And then came psychedelics and things like LSD, and then other psychedelic. And so I began to say there's more to life than the physical world, I think. Kind of suspected, and this went on and on as I evolved in my life. You learn as you go in life. I think, at least for me, I'm always learning maybe new things and getting new insights and so on, but I still am profoundly aware of my ignorance. And I study all kinds of science. And I want to say that around 1997, a brilliant scientist by the name of Dr. William Tiller, he was a material scientist at Stanford University and had been for many years. In fact, he was the chairman of the department for many years. He worked at Westinghouse before that. Then he was a professor at Stanford in material science. And he's published over 250 papers on traditional, conventional physical science. But he also suspected, for whatever his reasons, that there was something beyond material science. And he began to study that in parallel to his regular career, which, by the way, didn't make him popular with his colleagues. But he discovered that there is a non-physical part of the universe. Now, in the physical part, if you study science, and I have a video on a short history of science, you can study below this one. If you take anything that's material, it cannot travel. It can't travel as fast as the speed of light. The speed of light's a barrier. And the faster something goes, the heavier it gets. And the slower it goes, time slows down. Time is variable. This is Einstein's relativity theories. And that came out in the early 1900s. He published his first special relativity in 1905. Then came general relativity of gravity, 1915. It turns out time is variable. As a matter of fact, if you take two identical watches, same speed, and you take one and move it up, it starts going faster. And further, less gravity, the faster. Now, it's very small, but it's measurable, provable. Also, if it starts moving fast, the time then slows down. So with GPS today, you have a watch on Earth, and you have another one coordinated with it, and you put the other up a satellite moving around. Because it's less gravity, that causes it to go faster. But because it's going at a speed, it's going slower, but they don't cancel out. So you have to put correction factors in, or you wouldn't have GPS. So one for Einstein's two relativity theory, we wouldn't have GPS. You couldn't use it with Newton's theory. Just for example. Well, Tiller discovered that there is a non-physical stuff in the universe. I call it supraphysical, and it's non-physical. And this stuff behaves completely differently than physical stuff. First of all, time and space don't mean the same thing. It's not in a time-space-time. It's in a frequency domain, they call it that. He's got a mathematical model for it, by the way. Tiller's a brilliant scientist, and you have a mathematical model for the physical stuff. Actually, we have two models. We've got the Einstein model, we've got a quantum theory. And they started with what's called Maxwell's equation. Well, he has put a mathematical model together for the non-physical stuff. It's non-trivial. You've got to be a pretty advanced mathematician to understand it. well, I am, and I can sort of understand it. And it turns out the non-physical world communicates with the physical world in a very subtle way using something called deltrons. It's a name he made up, Tiller made up. And he was able, I believe, based on what I've learned from Tiller, that our memories, and indeed, in a certain sense, our consciousness, resides in our non-physical part of us. We are both a physical and a non-physical thing. And you can think of the non-physical, maybe you want to call it the spirit, soul, what do you want to call it? What you want to, but it's superimposed on the physical. And it doesn't experience space and time the way the physical does. So it's in our physical body, and when our physical body dies, our spiritual body continues on in the non-physical world. Now, in the non-physical world, I think that's where our memories reside. I actually think our brain is a receiver transmitter, and we transmit things into the non-physical world, and that's where our memories are, and we communicate with other entities, beings, not only human beings, but other things as well, through the non-physical world. That our brains are like transmitters, and we receive things through our brains from the non-physical world. That's our memories come back through our receiver transmitter. And as our brain degenerates, as we get older, it's harder for us to transmit the memories and get them back. Alzheimer's disease means you've lost your memories, or you're not making memories. And I think that's because our brain as a receiver transmitter starts deteriorating for various physical reasons. But the non-physical stuff's still there. And I believe that when your physical body dies, then our spiritual body is in the non-physical world. I also believe in what's called reincarnation. I think that our non-physical can incarnate into a physical body more than once, maybe many times. I studied reincarnation before I ever learned about Tiller. Well, what happened in India? They've actually got plenty of evidence of reincarnation in India where they believe in it and could do things. In the United States, where I live today, in the 21st century, we don't believe in any of that. And it turns out that this is all compatible, in my view, with Christianity and what Christians believe. There is a spirit, a soul, and there is an afterlife, if you want to call it that, beyond our physical body. Will still exist. Heaven and hell is what you want to make of it. I think we have a very simplistic view of that, the way it's taught in most Christian churches, I think. And I learned this. So then Tiller started writing books on this. After he retired from Stanford, he started writing books on it. And I'm going to share the screen and show you Tiller's work. Share the screen. Today, this is William Tiller. And he has a thing called tillerfoundation.org. Now, William Tiller is older than me, and he died a couple of years ago, in his 90s when he died. But this is a fantastic source now of his material. He has, for example, if you go up here, he's got white papers, and I read many of them, not all of them, and they're non-trivial readings. Some of them are difficult if you don't know math, but he got all kinds of white papers to read about all kinds of things. But he also wrote books, and he wrote 4 books, and I think this is the first one that came out in 1997, and I read it shortly after it came out, and that's when Dr. Tiller was the scientist then that I learned what I now believe today. I began to learn that. So I was about 60 years old when I finally believed that science proves the things we're talking about. And he's done experiments now. Tiller has done experiments to prove that consciousness has an effect on the physical world. And it kind of, to me, explains why when you believe something, that can cause those things to happen. All my life, Theron York had taught me that what you believe causes things to happen in your life. And I have believed so many things that were improbable that then happen that it's amazing. And I think that can happen to anybody, what you believe. Not can be positive or negative. If you, for example, believe you're going to get cancer, I think you'll get cancer. If you believe that you're going to stay healthy and happy and productive, I think that will happen. As you may know from other videos you've watched and talking to me now, you can tell I'm pretty advanced in age. I'm in my ninth decade of life. As of this video right now I'm 86 years old, and I don't have any aches or pains, and I don't have any known health problems. My blood pressure goes up and down, and if it gets a little high, I take one little pill that takes it down then, but it goes up and down every day. Every morning it's high. Some mornings not too high. It's too high, I take a pill. If it's not, I don't. Every night it goes down to really normal, even below normal. I actually think, personally, now this is just my personal opinion. I don't even call it a belief. It's an opinion that you have 60,000 miles of blood vessels of all sizes, from big arteries all the way down to little corpuscles, little things. I believe there's muscles around all of them, and I think when my blood pressure goes up, it stresses the muscle. When it goes down, it collapses. I think it keeps my cardiovascular system healthy. I've never been in the hospital. I've been lucky. I've broken a couple of bones. I've broken an arm. I broke an ankle one time, but they healed on their own. I didn't even go to the hospital. Well, that's not true. I went to the hospital and I had my arm, when I was in the third grade, I had my arm set, my right arm set. But a lot of it has to do with your psychology and your stress. I don't worry about money. I don't worry about anything. I'm not afraid of anything. You can be afraid of something if something happening, but generally speaking, people are afraid of all sorts of things they think are going to happen or not happen. I don't have attachments. I don't worry about attachments. I realize that everything that I'm attached to is going to go away, as I'm going to go eventually. I know all that. So when a friend of mine or someone I love that I know and love dies, I don't grieve over it. I know that they're still in the non-physical world. And as a matter of fact, I believe when you go into the non-physical world, life is wonderful. It's fantastic. And in fact, if you study people who had near-death experiences, things of that nature, or gone into certain psychedelic things, the non-physical world is fantastic. We don't even begin to understand it. We have very little understanding of it. We talk about God. Well, I think God is this non-physical world. God is something we don't understand. It's like a 1-year-old baby doesn't really understand its mother, but it has a relationship with it. Very good relationship. And the older the child gets, the stronger that relationship can get. But does a child ever really understand the mother? Well, I don't think so. I never claimed to understand my mother. There are things I understood while I didn't. But I had a relationship. And I've had a relationship with, as a matter of fact, one of the things Christianity teaches is love everyone. You never love what they do, but you love them. And how do you love somebody that's done something that's really horrible to you? You don't love the action, but you have to love the person. Now, that's hard to learn. But I don't hate anyone. I love everyone, even people that have done things that I think are horrible. How do you take somebody that's done a horrible, horrible thing and love them? Well, you love the person, not the horrible thing they did, at least what you think is a horrible thing. In fact, they may have done something you think is horrible that really wasn't horrible, if you really understood everything involved in it. And I won't get into that now, but you can make up examples of people that have done things you thought were horrible, but when you find out why they did it and what effect it had, I mean, what if you got a choice between taking an action? If you go this way, you kill someone you love. You go this way, you kill 1,000 people that you don't know, but they're children and people, good people, and you got to take a choice. Which way are you going to go, this way or that way? You're going to kill the one person that you love, that you know. You're going to kill 1,000 people you don't know. It's a hell of a choice to make. And what do you do? Well, that's up to you. Most people would probably kill 1,000 people and save the one that they love. Maybe I would too. I don't know. And is it right or wrong? I can't judge that. I'm not the judge of that. I do believe I'm in the United States, as you know, live in the middle of the United States. I do believe that the United States government has done horrible things pretty much throughout my life because of the wars we've done. And I think that race, we have tribes, and today I talk about tribalism. We have tribes. Tribes fight each other, hurt each other. And I think we've got to somehow overcome that. But that's another story. I don't get into that in this video. This is Doubting Thomas. So I was a Doubting Thomas. for several decades, probably from the time I was 10 years old till I was 60. It's 50 years of the doubting Thomas. Now, doubting, that didn't mean I wasn't an atheist. I think atheism is a religion. That's where you believe that there is no God. I never believed that. I guess you call me an agnostic, but I was doubting. But then I was also thinking there's more to it than that. And then Tiller came up. And now I believe that, yes, there was a Jesus. Yes, there was a resurrection, although I have a different interpretation of it. Some people do. That doesn't matter. And I believe that there's God. And I believe that your behavior will determine the quality of your life, not only in this physical world, but in the non-physical world. It should go. So that's the doubting Thomas thing now, church science. And then in the video below that, I talk about math proves God exists. And of course, I mean math and science together, prove it, but nothing to do with the Bible, nothing to do with religion. Math proves God exists. In fact, I give two proofs that God exists in that lower video. Now, what's the point of all this? Well, if you are a doubting Thomas or an atheist, watch the other two videos. Watch this one, maybe got this far in it, and then see what you think. And that's what I want to tell you about. So here is a doubting Thomas, a former doubting Thomas is now a believer. I believe pretty much in a lot of what Christian religion professes. I don't necessarily believe in some of the interpretations of it. That's another story how you interpret it, but I do believe in God, the right way to live. The way you live will determine the quality of your life, not only in this physical world, but in the non-physical world. In my case, I've been very blessed in the physical incarnation I'm in. Like I said, I'm 86 years old and I'm very active today. And you probably know what I'm doing today is I'm trying to deliver an appropriate 21st century math education to as many people as I can, because that improves their life tremendously. I also have over my life acquired a lot of wisdom tools, I call them. Wisdom is understanding what certain actions will have in terms of consequences. And I've learned a lot about that, and that's what's made me healthy and happy and had a great life. Now, part of it was I was in a great tribe to do it. I don't know what I would have been like in certain tribes in the world. There are tribes in the world today where I can't imagine living in. I mean, it would be a nightmare. And I can't say what I would have done. I was in this tribe where I was able to live the life I've lived. And if you're watching this video, you're probably in a good tribe like that too. Even in the tribe I'm in now, there's a lot of misery. And there's a lot of unhappy people, a lot of very unsuccessful people. Like when I say unsuccessful, don't live what they consider good lives. Okay, well, this is Dr. Dell or Craig Hain. That was what I wanted to tell you. So I'm going to stop the video and encourage you to watch the two videos below it, and then join the Triad Math Tribe, which is a new thing. It's only a year old, and it will help you improve your life dramatically. I won't guarantee you that. And there's many things it'll do for you, and you'll learn about it in the videos below, and then they will guide you to go to the Triad Math Tribe website and learn more about it and join it. I would say that if you'll devote the next 2 or 3 hours, not only to watching the two videos below, but going to the Triad Math Tribe video and watching that and studying, if you'll put in 2 or 3 hours of your time, I think it'll transform your life in a very positive way. And I think that's true for almost anyone. Certainly is true for young adults, and probably even for older adults too. I've learned things even today. I learned things that help improve my life. So I'm in my 9th decade. Craig Hain, Dr. Dell. See you on some other videos, hopefully. Hope you have a great life. Bye-bye.